All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble, of course, where I will play it and then pause it. BW, the reparations crowd, say courts can't rule against them because it is based on lineage instead of race. But then they turn around and say that if you don't identify as black, you don't get it. True. Yes, indeed, they do. We've got the Tenet indictment. We've got to talk about that. Tenet Media. Affecting Tim Pool, Lauren Chen, and many others. We're going to get pretty deep into that one because that's just, the whole case is fucked. You know, I mean, not that that's a huge surprise. Probably preaching to the choir when I say that. We've got the destruction of the modern Library of Alexandria. Breaking, the Internet Archive has lost its appeal in Hachette versus Internet Archive, which has been a case that's been ongoing for some time. This would be disastrous to those of us who edit books, by the way. Biden and Harris making a desperate move on marijuana. They're copying Trump's homework for the fifth or sixth time at this point. We've got the Georgia school shooting suspect. I don't really care about the indictment of the father or anything like that, although it looks like he probably did deserve to get indicted in that particular case. Buying a gun for someone who you know to be violent, who has made criminal threats and already been visited by the FBI is a bad idea. But when the person is already known to law enforcement as being that kind of person, it's very interesting how nothing was done to stop the situation. Engineers created a robot that's powered by a mushroom, actually. If you stimulate a mushroom with a low electrical voltage, you can cause it to do all sorts of things. And it's apparently was capable of walking around and shit like that, which is terrifying and fascinating at the same time. And also, there's a common myth that the siege of Masada, now this is ancient history, lasted for years. Turns out new research shows, no, it would only last a few weeks. Josephus was wrong. I would point out as well that the reference to Jesus by Josephus is a medieval forgery. It was a common at the time. We'll get into a little bit of that if we have time to do so. Mulgera, I'm glad the book arrived safely. Enjoy. Yes, indeed. Mulgera sent me this. Link in the description, shouting out his Twitter page. It's signed by Ron Paul. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you very much for this, by the way. I can't wait to read it. So a shout out to you. Yes, indeed. Let me check this really quick. Yes, to Blood Old on Twitter. I don't need those links anymore. Nesquick, Liz Cheney endorses Harris. In other news, Goebbels endorses Hitler. Uniparty going to Uniparty. Yeah, I know, exactly. Kathleen Green, imagine an army of jacked up mushroom death bots. Yeah, that sounds like someone make a dystopian movie about that quick. So first, we're going to talk about the Tenet Media indictment. The DOJ has come out in a federal indictment against a couple of Russians that were sending money to Tenet Media. This company includes payouts to people like Tim Pool, Dave Rubin. It was co-founded in part by Lauren Chen and her husband. And so it's a very strange situation. I think Razorfist probably had the best take on this, which is, the deal. What it was his exact tweet. I'm going to look at his exact tweet. Just a sec. I'm going to quote him. Brother from another mother. I'm quoting you, Razor. You'd best eat some pineapple on pizza as a result of this. If I can find the quote. Oh, yeah. Here was his response, and I agree with him completely. Because we all know the DOJ has an unblemished record of their accusations, particularly pertaining to Russia, holding up in the longer term. Why not indeed act upon them before they're actually proven? Hey, when's the Trump piss tape dropping, DOJ? It's only been 8 years. Yeah, what happened is that the allegation is that Tenet Media was taking money from some Russians to spread disinformation campaigns. Now, Tim Pool, this is a complex story. Tim Pool has weighed in and said, look, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. If so, then we're victims too, because, we were effectively defrauded. He is fundamentally correct. By the way, I don't believe the allegations, actually. I believe this is election shenanigans. I believe that it's bullshit. and it's designed to keep some of the heavy hitters on the, what you could brief so-called right wing, and Tim's not really exactly a conservative or anything, along with some of the others, to sort of sideline them. They've banned Tenet Media and Lauren Chen's personal page from YouTube now. But this is just an allegation. It doesn't even have anything directly to do with Tenet Media. The allegation is effectively that they were getting money from people who were Russian and spreading disinformation, but were pretending to be other people. So I'm not sure exactly why YouTube banned Lauren Chen, who I've spoken with before, not in person or anything, but in the online sense, followed the content. It makes absolutely no sense. It's like this is bullshit. It's shenanigans. The whole point is to try to censor people using this allegation as an excuse to do so. That's regardless, by the way, of whether the original allegation is even true. Let's say Tenet Media took $10 million from a couple of Russians, but was not necessarily aware of the fact that these were Russian individuals spreading disinfo. Number one, is it illegal or even unethical to get money from a foreign source? That's like saying that if I get money from, let's say some Italian company decides to sponsor me, does that necessitate that I'm breaking the law? I realize FARA is a thing, but it doesn't have any bearing on the operations of the domestic company. It doesn't make any sense. Now you've got leftoids dogpiling, especially Tim Pool, because he's the most high-profile individual who's mentioned here as part of Tenet Media. I went to Tim Pool's studio. The dude has like a small skate park in his basement. He's not a Russian agent. And then, by the way, again, I will mention, like I did with my morning video on the subject, touching on it briefly, I never saw any Polish people in his office either. I will vouch for him specifically. I don't think that Lauren Chen is trying to flood the airwaves with Russian disinfo. I think that a company got money and didn't and was misled potentially in where that money was coming from. And this is just an allegation. We don't even know if the allegation's true. You think that I'm going to trust the DOJ at its word? Yeah. Shit in one hand and wish into the other and see which one fills up first. Last beacon. Hi, Sticks. Ping us. This is Mike. 20 million illegals are registered to vote in the coming election. Sorry to be blackpilled, but I call it realistic. And clank, motherfuckers. Hope you, your family, and your garden are well. The garden's a little dilapidated, but it's going to be it's in the process of being rehabbed, so update probably fairly soon. Last beacon. Also, sorry for being late to the live stream. That's okay. Webster's Wares. Good morning, clankers. Free shipping using code STICKS at websterswares.com. Free shipping on orders over $40. New Trump beanies and Halloween tumblers on the way. Hooray for spooky season. Clank. The Sumerian. Just saw Alan Lichtman predicts Harris has enough of the 13 keys to win the presidency. I'm not so sure. I think that Alan Lichtman is hedging his bets big time. He has no clue what's going on. He is not aware of reality. There's some problems. Yeah, so with the Tenet Media company, what I would say is, number one, you've only got an allegation at the point. Number two, the actual creators that would be associated with it wouldn't have had any idea where the fucking money was coming from anyway. Number three, you shouldn't be preemptively banning people for spreading disinfo when you haven't even shown that there's any evidence of disinfo being spread. The fact that the government claims it does not make it true. And Razorfist is fundamentally correct. With regards to anything related to Russia, like right now, there's a news story. It's trending literally right now. Ooh, the Russians are hovering around the cables in the ocean. They're going to sever the communications. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I would say that when you do Russians are trying to influence the United States policy thing, it makes it easier to get away with something like that, actually, when you think about it. They can say that because half the population won't even believe the official story, even if it's true. Franciscan, it appears that Trump has successfully trapped Kamala with the marijuana position. He can finally accuse her of over-sentencing people for it. Yeah, I think that there is a broader strategy involved with the pot thing. Mulgera, thanks for the shout out. I appreciate it. Was very surreal meeting Ron Paul again and was starstruck for the second year in a row. Lol. Yeah, Ron Paul is pretty cool. He's going to live forever, just like Jimmy Carter apparently will. Aidhog, a riddle for you. I have no positions except those I copy. I also enjoy giving Willie Brown sloppy. Who am I? I can't guess. Mulgera, the Tenet media banning reminds me a lot of how the GOP kicked George Santos out of office before a trial. Guilty until proven innocent type shit. Yeah, it really bothers me. Now, you're not allowed to speak because we think you might have kind of maybe done something wrong. Last Beacon, speaking of spooky season, what sort of haunted Halloween stuff do you like to do? Myself, I like to go over to a Halloween horror house and get myself spooked. Watching Hocus Pocus is a yearly tradition that will be watched again this year on Halloween or the day before. Otherwise, just, you know, delve into some occult shit or something like that. It's fun. Now we've got a really unfortunate story. We've got a story about the Internet Archive. Now, the Internet Archive for archival purposes, this is internetarchive.org. I no longer use because they've been caught scrubbing material before. I use archive.is. You know, it's all over the place in the description. You can check it out. But for their book repository, they are very, very good. And in the wake of this lawsuit, they've already begun scrubbing things to try to focus mainly on, you know, uncopyrighted work. So if it's prior to the mid-1920s, it's not under any copyright. Nonetheless, they get sued with the Hatchet case, and they've lost their appeal, unfortunately. Now, the Supreme Court of the United States is really their only fallback. They will probably lose. While this Supreme Court incarnation has been better than some before, it's generally reluctant to take up cases as a rule, number one. And number two, not all of the justices there, Gorsuch stands out, always sort of toe the line with regards to decision-making of this kind. And so I would say that probably archive.org will die. That's why I don't use it anymore. I use, again, archive.is because they don't have like a literary collection. And to be clear, this is not the death of internet archival stuff. You should archive everything, but you shouldn't use archive.org. The site, because of the fact that it has so many scanned documents, left itself open, unfortunately, to, you know, shit cases like this. And it is a shit case when you think about it. It's a pile of horseshit. The fact that they're lending out books, they're no different than a digital library in the general sense. It's literally a digital library. Copies can be stored there and then lent out. And publishers have a problem with this. It should be seen as legal. Why should a library be treated any differently because it's digital as opposed to in person? Like if you really, like, let's say that I create a site and people purchase ebooks and they put them into the system and then they can be lent out to people. The book's been purchased. I mean, it's no different than if I go to a bookstore and buy a book and then I lend it to a friend. It's the same fucking shit. It's the same thing. The fact that it's digital shouldn't change that, but it's being treated differently under the law. What they're really trying to do, though, is destroy the archive itself in general, trying to bankrupt it. And this is because it's very inconvenient to legacy media and big tech when things can be archived. That's all. That's literally all this is about. It's basically a giant stink piece. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of texts, most of which aren't even copyrighted, so you don't even have a lending for them. I can go there and I can search for alchemical works. I can search for works from the Victorian era. I can search for herbalist works from the mid-1800s. And I would say a good 3/4 of all of the works that I've edited, they've come from archive.org. They've come from the Internet Library. It would be a literal burning of the modern day Library of Alexandria were the site to go down. I don't even see how they make a profit considering the amount of upload they probably have to do, but somehow they get by. Let's see. Matt, I'd love to send you homebrew on my hard cider. Hard cider is pretty good, yeah. Although I don't, can you even ship that probably? I don't know. Metalhead 88X. I live in the Chicagoland area. I'm starting to see more Trump Vance signs than Harris signs. One reason not to be black-pilled. Diz5. Will the deep state say Styx is a Russian spy? Well, I did go on Tim Pool's broadcast. So it's possible, you know. Let's see. The swamp cleaner. With how pathologized Russia has become, the monetary backing itself without editorial influence would be enough to get accusations flying. Either Russia had an easy in or the accusations are bunk. I think the accusations are bunk because I have no evidence to the contrary. Noah Bodie. Preemptive bans tells me it's a planned and coordinated op. That's my suspicion. I suspect that the attack on Tenet media is part of a broader effort by the deep state to try to silence dissidents before the election. Last beacon. Honestly, I really wish I could have listened to Ron Paul instead of the neocon trash that have hijacked the Tea Party back in the 2010s. I supported Ron Paul. I voted for him. You think I was going to vote for Romney? Yeah. Wait till hell freezes over and then thaws out and freezes over again. Mulgera. I say it all the time. Ron Paul is the best president we never had. I agree with you. Yeah. The dashing rogue, Lauren Chen, took Eurasianist money to subvert the U.S. I, for one, welcome our international and nationalist overlords. Glory to Colombia, down with Eurasia. Yeah, I know. That's the talking point that they're going with. Lauren Chen, the Russian spy. Yeah, I don't believe that. Having again briefly communicated with her, she doesn't strike me as the type. And the idea that Tim Pool and Lauren Southern and Dave Rubin are like Russian assets is retarded. Comio, nothing from you about Putin endorsing Kamala. I will cover that tomorrow, actually, I believe. Mungy, the Lichtman mod is blown out of proportion. How many of the elections he's weighed in on were actually hard to predict? One or two? His model is interesting, but not the law of the land like people treat it. True. Shaker Silver, the DOJ is smearing conservatives as useful idiots with a bogus indictment and attempting to intimidate other commentators. Exactly. They're hoping that we'll be silent. Good luck. This is Mike. Do you think Ross Perot would have been a step in the right direction like Trump turned out to be? Yeah, he sounded like he had some interesting ideas, actually. Well, we got to talk about marijuana in a second here. Yeah, I need a bit of a stiff drink, you know. It happens sometimes. Don't worry too much about it. Biden and Harris make desperate marijuana move as rule of law goes to pot. Now, of course, Fox News, that's the link in the description, they're not really in favor of pot legalization. I myself am. I believe it should be legal for a person's personal possession to grow, to use. If you want to smoke your friends out or something, that's fine too. Just don't give it to kids. Don't lace it with fentanyl, and we'll call it a day. You don't need to tax it or regulate it or anything like that. It's pot. We're talking about marijuana. We're not talking about heroin or something like that. Maybe you want to regulate the harder drugs and try to get people addiction rehab, but most people don't get addicted to weed. You can be habituated. You wake up, you do your, smoking in the morning, you smoke when you get off work or something. It's like a ritualistic thing. But, I mean, there are far more harmful things in the world now, aren't there, other than marijuana? And I love it when, like, the boomer cons will say, well, yeah, weed back in the day, back when I was dropping acid at Woodstock or something. Weed back in the day was a lot less strong than the weed that we have today. Dude, you were doing ludes and LSD and handfuls of fucking mushrooms, and some people got on fucking heroin and stuff like that. Don't lecture us on fucking marijuana. Doesn't matter if the THC content is higher. And by the way, it is highly variable. Just visit a dispensary if you don't believe me and check out the labels. It ranges anywhere from, down towards 10%, the gentle bud or something, all the way up to like 35. I wouldn't want to smoke the latter. I think that I would fry a neuron, but, it's available. It's funny. Loosening marijuana laws is a Biden-Harris priority with only months till the election. What just happened literally a few days ago? Trump came out in favor of recreational marijuana and said, look, at the federal level, we're gonna scrap the laws, let the states handle it. Biden and Harris realized that that was very popular as a pitching point. So now they've decided that they support effectively the same thing. Federal law, the Controlled Substances Act of 1970, requires that the Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, classify drugs according to a 5-tier scheduling system. Schedule 1 drugs are those that have no currently accepted medical use and present high potential for abuse and dependence, and their production and distribution are generally prohibited under federal law. In contrast, drugs that have an accepted medical use are placed on less restrictive schedules 2 through 5, subjecting their production, distribution, and medical use to federally based regulation on their relative risk of abuse and dependence, with Schedule 2 drugs being more strictly and Schedule 5 the most lightly controlled. And Trump came out and said, look, deschedule it. Just let it be legal at the federal level. Get the federal government out of it, basically. He may or may not be in favor of a tax on it or other forms of regulation, but generally speaking, it would become legal. States would then be free to exercise their right under the 10th Amendment and make their own drug system for marijuana, which makes sense. The federal government never had the authority to schedule these drugs in the first place. The fact that this escaped constitutional scrutiny for so long is actually it's asinine. Now the Kamala Harris, campaign, the Kamala Biden campaign, basically, they want to reschedule it. They're basically taking a watered down version of Trump's basically just fucking legalize it Snoop Dogg mode concept. They're basically taking that and watering it down. They're in damage control mode over this. Trump completely preempted them. It was the biggest preemption since Trump showed up in East Palestine, forcing Pete Buttigieg to go there looking like the OSHA, poster boy. Marijuana should be legal. I know that I run up against some members of my audience on this, but having smoked weed and having done other drugs and having overdosed on the so-called legal weed that was available at the time many years ago, marijuana should be legal. Yeah, you should be able to grow it. You should be able to smoke it. You should be able to smoke your friends out, do whatever you want. You're a human being and a citizen. You're not a slave. Why should the government be able to tell you that you can imbibe the substance? Now, if you smoke it and drive, that's DUI. If you smoke it and become disorderly and you're staggering down the street punching someone, well, disorderly conduct / assault, whatever happens to be. If you give it to a kid, that's child endangerment. We've already got laws on the books for this. We already applied them to tobacco and alcohol anyway, although we don't prosecute a person for smoking and driving. We do prosecute them, though, if they smoke in a car with a kid, secondhand smoke, you're exposing someone against their will that you have seniority over, and then so that's unacceptable. You can drink. You can even give a minor alcohol. If you're a family member and you give, Italian family, they give their kid a glass of wine, that's fine. But you can't purchase it for them specifically. You can't supply it to them if they're not an immediate member of your family, for example, et cetera, et cetera. We already have these laws. They're already on the books. We don't need any further laws. It's not necessary. Nick C. Yeah. Hey, Nick. Any man supporting Harris walls are low-T, feminine, and weak. Agreed. As demonstrated at the DNC, they don't like masculinity. Embrace strength and masculinity. By the way, Nick is very, very strong, so you should take some good advice. Soleil333. Do find it funny that people on Twitter are accusing people like Tim of treason, but totally quiet about the current and former New York governor having a Chinese spy influence some of their decisions. Yeah, it's interesting, the timing of the story, isn't it? Sumerian, call me sick, but I'd eat Harris's meat flaps. They probably smell like rotting collard greens. Yummy. God, you're trying to, ugh. It takes a lot to turn my stomach, dude. Okay, you got pretty close to it. Your friendly neighborhood weenie dog. Use the Kamala cool shuffle, Trump bad shuffle. I mean, use 3 shuffle thing more. It's funny. Alamendorius. Sticks, the idea that pot isn't addictive is BS. Literally knew people who could not function without smoking first thing in the morning and they weren't using it for pain. Also, how's it going? I'm going pretty well. I'm going to do a little gardening after the live stream. But yeah, Twiggy, you're correct. When I'm thinking of Kamala's meat flaps, Yeah, there's no sex for me for the next 24 hours, I guess. Yes, weed can be habituating. It can be. I admit that. It's true. Even people who are pot aficionados will generally admit it. But it's not chemically addictive, number one, and it's not as harmful. I mean, it's not heroin. It's not crack. It's not even like a psychedelic or anything like that. Just keep the kids away from it. Redneck Coder, look at the author of the Fox Pot article. Who's the author? I didn't actually check that. Oh, William Barr. What a coincidence. Podvoisky, you're missing critical details about the Internet Archive case. During COVID, they removed all their restrictions on their library service. Too long didn't read. Their library service went from a lending into a piracy service. Yeah, but who cares? It doesn't matter. I mean, most of those books are out of copyright anyway. Let's see. Bystander syndrome. Anyone who's ever received rubles on rants of super chats is now going to jail. Lol. Yeah, I'm hoping that I don't have any Russian fans, because apparently I can get in trouble for that and be accused of treason. Wasted Bonehead, good morning from the grave. Good morning to you. BW, don't know where Beacon gets his 20 million figure, but with that asshole Rickman, who has been right and cheating in millions more illegals, I am blackpilling too. Wish Trump had hired better and purged government first term. I think he'll be fine. I wouldn't worry about it. Wasted Sticks. Greta Thunberg is a neckbeard away from being a male feminist chud. Yeah, she does have rather male-ish jaw features, The unintended. Sticks. I want to learn the differences between East and West politics that you talk about. Can you recommend any reading or video material, or would you consider doing a video on it? Thanks, Clank Master Flex. Just look up anthropological materials from different cultures. That's all you have to do, or world history works, any decent ones. Last Beacon, speaking to Ross Perot, I don't believe that Ross Perot could have won, because in the late 80s and early 90s, we've had massive blue wave even when Texas had its first female governor. In Ann Richards in Florida had its first Democrat governor, at least in the modern era, with Lawton Schills. BW, I just hope Trump isn't driving off evangelicals with this. He's not. And I pray Tim and Benny don't get arrested. We are in desperate times in this country. I think we are losing a revolutionary war. Well, they can't really be arrested, because all Tim has to say is like, I didn't know where the fucking money was coming from. I partnered with this company. And, I mean, it's basically, this is what politicians do now, isn't it? Here's the hypocrisy. Politicians will get money that's been bundled from companies, shell firms and shit like that have gotten money from foreign shores. Yeah, but all of a sudden it's a problem when some content creator who's totally independent gets like 10 rubles or something like that. Yeah, color me surprised. Wasted Bonehead. Sticks, join me in my dead posse. We call ourselves the Bone Bags. Let's see. Last Beacon. That was continued from the last rant. Fucking character limit on Rumble rants. No Bodie, want to image Kamala naked? Check out Rachel Dolezal's OnlyFans. Probably about as chewed up. Yeah, it's probably about similar. Unfortunately, I actually saw those pictures. It wasn't a pleasant night. SC Woods, good morning. Sticks, clank. Clank to you. And H. Ross Pro, the Ferengi with dyspepsia. Bystander syndrome. Now picture, I can't even keep up with the super chat, so I'm going to have to establish like a limit on how much you have to pay before I actually say them, because otherwise I'm not going to get to the sponsors or the news. ZLG, hell yeah, U.S. citizen in Australia for a wedding, and I get a stick stream post-bachelor party in the balcony jacuzzi once I get back. I appreciate you, bro. Also, most of the TV here tells you what you can get from the government, a traveling millionaire, U.S. Interesting. Australia, it's a place that it's like it would be interesting to visit, but then everything tries to kill you, including the plant life. Patrick Foley, you're a superstar at the gay bar. And a ZLG follow-up, also just an FYI, Australia collects me to VPN to send this shit to you. Interesting. Yeah, sometimes I get too many super chats and I can't even fucking keep up with them. Super chats and Rumble rants. Let's get to our sponsors really quickly, and then I'll get to a few more, and then we'll go forward with the news. We have cultivated-mind.com, where you can get mushroom pills. Took one of them this morning. It does boost my energy. I've had anecdotes from several other people that have bought it. They'll attest to the same thing. For legal reasons, I can't tell you that it does, but I can tell you that it does for me specifically. So keeping that in mind, cultivated-mind.com. They've got various mushroom extracts available. We've got pumpkinfirecrafts.us, where you can get bookmarks, keychains, belt chains, engraved spoons, glassware, and much more, mainly with the Ouroboros logo, some clanking going on, I think some 10.2, etc. Good time had by all. We've got BiltongUSA.com, the land of Anton's sweet, sweet meat. You should put it in your mouth. Also, Sticks, X, and Hammer mugs, tumblers, and shirts are available there. Again, use code STICKS on any of these sites when prompted to do so. WickedNeedleEmbroidery.BigCartel.com, where you can get Sticks, X, and Hammer hats. Several designs and colors available. Mine was stolen, at least the one that I had in here. Thank you, Twiggy. HeritageHeirloomSeedCompany.com, where you can get a seed survival bucket. You can also get very, very nice soap. Yes, this is the Sticks, X, and Hammer soap. That's what it looks like. Sort of looks like aquatic. Blueberry, clove, and I can't remember, cedar was the third ingredient. It's more on the clovey berry side than the cedary side. I kind of like I like the way that it was balanced. There's more soap coming soon as well. Webster'sWares.com/sticks-wares, where you can get jackets, you can get all sorts of paraphernalia. They've got knives, metal straws so that you can save a sea turtle. When I get to New Orleans, I'm going to eat sea turtle. I'm going to eat turtle gumbo or soup or whatever the fuck it would be called. But you know, the ones that you're not eating, you don't want them to have a plastic straw stuffed in their nose like that one video from several years ago that was extremely unpleasant. The turtle was like bleeding out of its nose and stuff. So again, Webster'sWares.com. They've also got Trump paraphernalia available as well. And finally, jamandbean.com, JAMNbean.com. Get some of their Costa Rica blend for all of your caffeine needs. They got nice herbal teas available. You know, you come for the coffee and you stay for the tea. But there's also a new blend that will be coming soon. I'm waiting for an update from them before I announce anything, but it was fucking delicious. It's pretty great. All right. Scatman John Sticks, are you concerned about the change of rhetoric since 2016? When was the last time we heard about draining the swamp or building the wall? Feels like 26 energy is gone. 2016 energy is gone. Love your work, Sticks. Trump's been talking about the border this whole time. He still intends to build the wall. He'll get hardballed on it, but I think he'd be reasonably successful in doing so. Joe, your next book should be reorganizing the dictionary in order of how gay the word sounds. Sounds like a banger. That would be funny. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Bystander syndrome. Now picture Kamala's green and blue and slightly red blotched fish pocket. Now say it with me. Let's get it up in them guys. Ooh, I don't think you want to do that. If you want some sort of disease, maybe. Now we've got to talk about the Georgia school shooting suspect. Again, I'm not particularly concerned about the father being arrested and charged. Yeah, you shouldn't give a gun to someone who's clearly nutso, and you should be held accountable for that. That's not the main news, though. The main news here is that this individual had been questioned by the FBI prior. What a fucking surprise that is. It's shades of the Boston Marathon bombing. You remember how the Tsarnaev brothers, there was intel that came in to the government that they had been radicalized. They were literally posting material in favor of Osama bin Laden on Facebook publicly. It was publicly available. It's like, praise Osama. But nothing was done about it. Now, I don't believe in like pre-crime. Just because somebody is radical, quote unquote, doesn't mean that they should be arrested. But you may want to monitor the activity of an individual who has made violent threats to shoot up a school. Why didn't they follow through with it? Yeah, okay, you can't charge them because it's just a shit post online by a teenager. Okay, perfectly fine. Can you prevent them from getting a firearm? That's why the dad's being charged, by the way. But no, it's the gun's fault. It's the fault of gun owners. Like the fact that I own guns, it magically causes school shootings to happen or something. Yeah, because they were so prevalent until recently, even though everyone owned guns. They were so prevalent. They happened all the time. It's bullshit. The government shoots up more schools than civilians do anyway. Sometimes in other countries, but, there have been instances like Kent State in the United States where the government's definitely involved. Wasted Bonehead Sticks, breaking news. Tulsi Gabbard recently broke rules regarding communication. For more information, look up Tulsi Gabbard Rule 34. Yeah, with Tulsi, that's okay. Just don't look up that sort of thing with regards to Kamala, unless you are bulimic and you're itching for a purge or something. Tulsi Gabbard is actually attractive. She keeps fit too, goes surfing and shit like that, and was in the military. And I'm not exactly simping for Tulsi Gabbard, but she is attractive. I still say that Anna Paulina Luna is the most attractive person currently involved with politics. She's a goddamn peach. Mulgera, yeah, if radical rhetoric was worthy of jail time, I'd be fucked with my Rothbardian anti-government beliefs. Lol. Exactly, who declares what's extreme? But when you have death threats involved, when somebody has literally threatened to shoot up their school, to the point where there's enough evidence so the FBI has to show up and question them, because they don't take anything seriously unless it's political dissidentry, then probably that person shouldn't have a firearm. They should probably be in a goddamn asylum. And that's the problem. And the founders would have agreed with me. If somebody is habitually violent or unhinged, or saying violent and unhinged things, here's the litmus test. If you can establish enough evidence that they are a threat against themselves and others, put them in an asylum. They can't have a gun because they can't be a member of a militia when they're in the loony bin. Otherwise, leave them alone. That's what you need to do. Adam Ralt, hey Sticks, I live on Cape Cod working as an electrician. Should I troll and vote Stein or Trump for the popular vote? The summer here was busy as hell. You should vote Trump. You should vote for the candidate who is best suited for the job. Joe, Trump has been doing every podcast he can get his hands on. Full frontal exposure to the people, anyone who will listen. Kamala is a niqab. Kamala is Hayden Harris. Last speaking, honestly, I'm getting so tired of the Russian paranoia. I remember back in 2009, the Democrats were kissing the ass of Russia. True. And they were criticizing Ukraine. I can remember all of the news stories. I mean, it was not exactly hard to find when they're saying, oh my God, Ukraine is a cesspit of corruption and there's a bunch of there's bribery and stuff like that. And Putin almost got a hall pass at the time, actually. Interesting how the narrative changes. Now, there's a link in the description. It's the 5th news link. And it's both fascinating and creepy at the same time. Engineers gave a mushroom a robot body and let it run wild. If you hook up a mushroom to an electrode and you give it a little juice, so to speak. I mean, technically, it's a mycelium colony. It's not like a mushroom like the actual cap or something. People don't understand. Most people don't know anything about mycology. That's why mushrooms out in the wild, they go to waste, even though they're perfectly edible and even choice. The mycelium network of a mushroom expands far beyond the cap. The cap is simply the sexual structure. The gills that contain spores and stuff. I mean, we literally call the thing on the stalk, the flare, it's literally a hymenal veil. The mushroom kind of takes its own virginity, so to speak, I guess, sort of. But mushrooms, they have those fruiting bodies. That's generally what we eat. We can't really eat mycelium. But if you take a chunk of mycelium under proper conditions and put it in a little spider-like robotic body, apparently it's capable of motility. Yes, the mushroom is capable of effectively walking around. The mushroom is literally piloting this robot. I don't know whether to be goddamn terrified about the ramifications of this or whether to be hyper fascinated. I think that it's a combination of both. This was from Cornell. An interdisciplinary team of researchers from Cornell University in the US and the University of Florence in Italy took steps to find out whether, mushrooms could actually walk around. putting a culture of the edible mushroom species Pleurotus erengi, also known as the king oyster mushroom, in a control of a pair of vehicles which can twitch and roll across a flat surface. Through a series of experiments, the researchers showed it was possible to use the mushroom's electrophysiological activity as a means of translating environmental cues into directives, which could in turn be used to drive a machine's movements. By growing mycelium into the electronics of the robot, we were able to allow the biohybrid machine to sense and respond to the environment, says senior researcher Rob Shepard, a materials scientist at Cornell. Why do I get the feeling that Elon Musk is going to make like a mushroom car at any given point? These self-driving cars are pretty good with GPS. But what if they could think? And then, occasionally the mushroom's fruit, and then you get free mushrooms or something like that. Put some psilocybin in there. I wonder what the mushroom robot would do then. Mulgara, it was funny seeing Zhank spurg out about Russian money in Tenet, even though the Young Turks was financed by Al Jazeera, who was funded by the Qatari government. Yeah, it was a little bit ironic. So, hey, I don't want GPS-driven self-driving cars. I would never buy one. But if you offered me a mushroom-driven car, like if I could trust my life to, I don't know, a Amanita muscaria or, Moral or something, yeah, okay, maybe. Maybe a golf cart, something smaller and slower so that I don't die. But, yeah, I'd rather a mushroom drive me than some people, actually. I've been in the car with some people that don't really know about how to drive. This is how we get Skynet. And it's not going to be Skynet, though. I guess our mushroom overlords are coming. Maybe these are evil scientists and they've been corrupted by the mushroom god or something. Like the Lord Mushroom came to them and said, "You will help me to establish my empire." And now, so they're going to put mushrooms in all of our electronics. To be clear, the mushroom is not capable of intelligently directing the robot. It's capable of sending out electrical impulses, and this causes movement. And if you look at that link in the description, it is severely time-lapse. It probably took it an hour to move across the table. But it is capable of moving a machine. And so this does definitely have ramifications for engineering. BW, but Sticks, what if the mushrooms seek revenge? Yeah, I know, that's the problem. Car that runs on psilocybin would be a trip. Yeah, in several ways. All right, my car drove me to the store and then I got balls to the wall high. I mean, yeah, but I don't have to worry about driving back because the mushroom's doing it, so. And then the mushroom takes you into the back alley and then kills you or something. The mushroom drives you into a wall on purpose. Why did you eat my sexual organs? Fuck you. Jim, Sticks, what's the scariest moment of your life? When I overdosed. That was the scariest moment of my life. You wouldn't believe the things that I saw when I was completely blasted out of my gourd on JWH 018 Freebase. Yeah. Imagine shrieking in pain because literally nothing makes sense. Then dissociating so much that you almost don't care anymore. Then having amnesia over the couple of next weeks. I was in the psych ward for, I believe, 2 weeks. I don't remember ever drinking water when I was there. I had to have, otherwise I would have died. But I don't remember anything about it. The only thing I remember was the person that was next to me in the other bed. He seemed like a cool dude. He tried to kill himself. He had severe depression. And we were talking. There was one point at which this one dude was tweaking out and he was marching up and down the hallway, screaming at people and crazy shit like that. It was terrifying. Corbane. Hey, Sticks, I'm trying shrooms tonight for the first time with an experienced buddy. Any advice? Legally speaking, I cannot give you any advice. But Swim has told me that it's a good idea to start off with a lower dose than I took. When I took Azaresins, I thought it was just a single dose. No, it was 4. Whoops. That was not a good experience. Sir Thomas Drake, taking a trip has a whole new meaning. Yet we're going to get mushroom cars now. Elon Musk has dropped the cyberpunk in favor of fungipunk. Beautiful Vash. Didn't know if you saw, but Dan Lichtman is predicting that Kamala is going to win. I think he might be full of it. Yeah, he's got a lot of wiggle room. He's hedging his bets. Now let's talk about Masada. It's ancient history time, children. We've talked about science and mycology already. The Roman siege of Masada lasted just a few weeks, not several years, say archaeologists. Now, I was always under the belief that the siege of Masada lasted for years. There was a writing by Josephus, actually, on this topic. And the idea was that the Romans effectively corralled the rebelling Jews up in Masada, built a wall around it, basically a defensive structure, and then began painstakingly building a ramp so they could bring siege engines up there. Not that that was clearly necessary. They could have bombarded it, but they decided to go in style. They built a ramp hundreds of feet long, all the way up to this mountain fortress. And they did it mainly just with dirt and with wood, basically, and then rocks and shit like that. And they stabilized it, and then they drove their siege engines up, and then they slaughtered everyone. It turns out that, according to new evidence, the siege couldn't have lasted more than a few weeks. Considering the Roman manpower that was there, they could have built the ramp and the other fortifications within 2 or 3 weeks. This doesn't surprise me. What happens is that throughout history, you get a little bit of hyperbole. You get an elaboration on things, especially when it's nationalistic in nature. So Josephus was a Jewish scholar. Naturally, he wanted to make it look like, well, these brave dissidents, they held out for years and years against this far superior Roman force. Now, I always suspected that something like this would eventually be found. And that's because the availability of resources at a place like Masada, when you're cut off from all trade and contact with the outside world by 8,000 Roman troops, you wouldn't be able to last for several years. Not unless you had an enormous storage there. And even though there would have been stores of goods, grain and fruits and so forth, eventually they get a little bit mungy now, don't they? You know, the apple that you just picked, a couple weeks later, what does it look like? It's shriveled up. You can still eat it in an emergency if you really need food, but they didn't exactly have freezers and, modern canning techniques or anything like that back then. They wouldn't have had a small grocery store worth of canned corn or something like that at Masada. It never really made sense that it could literally be a years-long siege. But now, a new study by Dr. Stiebel has shown that indeed it's impossible that it lasted for years. It had to have only been a few weeks. This makes much more sense than the historical mythology that's been spun. And it's been spun mainly for, again, Zionistic purposes. Basically, this is part of our origin story. It's like the story of the oil lamp that, didn't go out for however many days or something. That never happened. This is part of mythology. Fascinating, though. Now, the Siege of Masada, definitely you should look that up and study all about it. I love historical stuff like that. Watched The Patriot for the first time last night, the whole movie. I had seen clips from it. Pretty damn good fucking movie. A little bit brutal at times. Oh, I already read that one. Why did it zoom back down? I don't know what's going on here. Bystander syndrome. A pimp named Stickback, reciting the pimp's prayer. Lord, please pray for the soul of this bitch, Kamila, and guide my pimp hand and make it strong, Lordy, so that she might learn a hoe's place. Amen. Last beacon. The whole reason why the narrative has changed is because of Edward Snowden. That's been the whole reason for the last 11 years. Losing in 2016 was just the icing on the cake. Now, follow up, that's the whole reason they had the color revolution in Ukraine. John Andrew, there's a Japanese movie from the 70s called Attack of the Mushroom People. Maybe it's going to come true now. That I've got to watch that. Poupée says the best way to get high is to eat poo. Eat the poo. They eat the poo-poo. They call it fisting, and it's very painful, but they're on drugs, so they don't mind it. Mantango. I want to watch Last of the Mohicans again. That was a good movie. I loved that one. Now that we're through with the news, we can just rant for a few minutes. Please send no more super chats, though. I'm just going to pay attention to general chat now. BW, The Patriot. There's a movie our new commie government will ban fast. Yeah, good luck on them. It's a little bit harder for them to ban movies these days because of the proliferation of digital stuff, as long as people maintain older operating systems. Don't trust Windows 11 because everything will go to the cloud and they'll just delete it remotely through telemetry. So unless you know what you're doing, your computer is basically nothing more than a dummy terminal. Windows 10 is better. Like you can mod, like this is running Windows 10. If you modify it, then you can stop it from doing that sort of bullshit. But Windows 11, you can lock it down a little bit. You can prevent generally that from happening, but Windows 12, you won't be able to do that. It'll turn your computer into a dummy terminal. Yeah, Last of the Mohicans was great. That was a damn good movie. Last of the Mohicans. What other war movies would I recommend? Or movies? Well, Zulu, obviously. Zulu is probably my favorite war movie. Although it pisses me off because there were several historical inaccuracies. For instance, Private Hook. In the movie, he's cast off as being basically a drunk. He's drunken and a barrack room lawyer and stuff like that. Actually, he was a teetotaling lay preacher. Meanwhile, Sergeant Maxfield, who is cast off as, you know, his father is a lay preacher and his, you know, he's a stellar character. He's just a perfect soldier. He was actually the company drunk. Also, it was a Warwickshire regiment. It wasn't mainly Welsh. It was mainly English. Also, the preacher in the movie is cast off as Swedish, has a daughter with him, and she gets felt up at one point. This is the only reason they put her in the movie. By the way, she did porn at one point. She did a few nude scenes in a movie prior to Zulu. Never seen it, but, you know, probably would like it. That never happened. He was never at the actual base. Probably didn't even have a daughter, and he wasn't Swedish. He was English. He did have the charter. He was miles away at the time on his own property. The native levies never fled. They fought bravely alongside the British. That never happened either. Of course, there was no preacher there to tell them to run off into the hinterlands. And by the way, after the first day of fighting, things petered off generally, and they started stacking up rocks and shit and turned it into a fort. And I think they called it Fort Chard, if I remember correctly. Zulu is an excellent movie, and there are elements of it that are highly accurate, but not everything. That pisses me off a bit. Zulu is not really a war movie. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's what the fuck? What else could it possibly be about? I've seen Tora long ago. I don't remember much about it, but I do remember enjoying it. Kingdom of Heaven director's cut. Yeah, now we can just rant about movies. Ramon C. GTC, I love your Arnold impression. Arnold, get to the chopper. Kill me, I'm here. Who is your daddy and what does he do? Steady Eddie, I demand a blue shell upgrade to my mushroom car. Yeah, imagine like cars will be run by mushrooms and shit. And like, you know, instead of like right now, you know, oh, I drive a Lexus. Well, I drive a Honda. And, you know, there's some, you know, people will look at the brand and they'll sort of judge you a little bit based on what you drive. Like I would prefer a Jeep myself. Jeeps are fucking great. The old school ones, though, not those new ones that have 4 doors. They look retarded. But imagine that you're judged by like the kind of mushroom that's autopiloting your car. Well, I've got the psilocybin vehicle. Fuck you. I've got amanitas in here. Guys, any room for a moral? Belita's team. That would be so funny. Last beacon, fungi punk equals headbanging mushrooms. There is a channel on YouTube. I can't remember the name of the channel where he hooks up mushrooms to electrodes and runs it through like a speaking system, and it makes noises and stuff like that. Like you can play them like an instrument, and it's just really, really freaky because it's like, oh god, the mushroom is kind of sort of similar to a neuron when you look at the mycelium network. It looks like a mass of neurons. The mushroom is capable of communicating with other mushrooms that are in proximity, by the way. Twiggy little shit, gotta get you to watch Repo, the genetic opera. Well, I guess I know what we're doing tonight. Soapmaker 19, Trump is having a surprise press conference. Oh, goodness. He is? Let me look this up. Trump. Breaking. I don't see anything about it. But I do see something funny that I want to relate to you. This is from MSNBC 2 days ago. This is the headline. MAGA panics as George Clooney breaks silence. Oh, God. Sexy goth Paris Hilton. Yeah, that sounds all right. What was the name of that movie? Maybe someone can tell me. There was that one, it was Spliced. I remember that one. And the dude fucks the alien chick that's been like genetically created. Spliced was a good movie. But then because she's been, fucked, she slowly turns into an extremely murderous male. I liked Spliced. I think it was called Spliced. Let me look it up. Yeah, Spliced. No, it wasn't a TV series, dude. It was a movie. Film. Yeah, Canadian slasher flick from 2002. Supernatural slasher film directed by Gavin Wilding and starring Ron Silver, Leanne Balaban, and Drew Lachey. The film was released on December 1st, 2002 in Canada. How'd this do at the box office? No, doesn't even list it. Guess the movie wasn't, was it not received well? Oh, people didn't like the movie. It's only got a 4.4 out of 10. I thought the movie was great. Huh. Oh, wait, that's not even the same movie. What the fuck? Oh, also known as The Wisher. Yeah. Yeah, Paris Hilton is actually pretty cool. She's come out against, by the way, like child abuse in state-run schools and stuff like that more recently. And so that's to her credit. Apparently, she was molested and stuff like that in government facilities and resents that. Doc Holliday, keep up the fabulous content sticks, of course. All I can say is TGIF. It sounds like I'm watching the genetic opera tonight or something. I don't know what I'm going to eat. I want some Swiss chard. I think Swiss chard sounds good. I've got to water the bed, though. If you don't water your greens before you harvest them, it can be a problem. And I've got to clean out the goddamn refrigerator. Oh, it's a... There's the mold colonies in there. Going to grow a civilization if I don't. I'm just joking. There's no mold in the fridge, but you know what I mean. Eventually, there would be. Musically assured destruction. Have you heard The Day the Clown Cried? It's a powerful premise. Jerry Lewis made it, but became embarrassed by how it turned out. It is unreleased. No, I haven't actually. No, I'll clean out the fridge. I'll take care of that because I got that Indian food in there. By the way, if you come to Rutland, there is a very, very good Indian restaurant called Masala Corner, right in the center of town, right across from the Walmart, stereotypically Rutland. But I wouldn't get their dal tadka. I wouldn't get anything. I wouldn't get the lentils. If you get the lamb, though, prepare to be amazed. And their naan is very, very good. I see that Anton is here. King of Biltong. Go over to Anton's in Roanoke, Texas. Yeah, the lamb. Yeah, I should have gotten lamb curry from Masala Corner. I should not have gotten the lentils. They weren't bad. It's just that they weren't salted enough. They were a little bit on the bland side. But the lamb curry, meanwhile, it's like just the right amount of spice, nice and sweet and everything. Mulgara, you are objectively wrong. Turkey is the worst meat. Last beacon, last rumble ramp. Ping us, ping us, ping us, ping us, ping us. No, turkey, unless it is made Thanksgiving style, is goddamn stupid. Pressed turkey sucks. It's slimy and retarded. Sliced up turkey, that sucks too. Turkey in general, shredded turkey, it doesn't matter how you cook the turkey unless you stuff it and you cook it with the trimmings and then, slow cook it for hours and hours, is the worst thing in the world, basically, meat-wise. King of Biltong, Anton, meanwhile, he's got you covered with the good shit. Got Wagyu and Cabanassi and everything else. Duck is really good. Here's how I'd rate the meats. Let's see. How would I rank them? Let's see. What would the top meat be? It's kind of hard to tell. And I'm going to be eating turtle in New Orleans, so, we'll have to add that to the list. What would the best meat be? Overall, buffalo. Bison. I've had buffalo burgers before. I've had the buffalo biltong. Exquisite. Duck is high on the list. I do like duck. And beef is fine. Pork, it depends. It depends on how it's cooked. I love bacon, and I love a good maple ham. I'm not really into pork chops, though. Never saw the idea. Chicken, it also depends. If you're talking about like a slow-roasted, nice crispy chicken or fried chicken or something like that, it's excellent. But if you're talking about chicken the way that New Englanders tend to cook it, no offense to my rents, it's okay. It's middling. You eat it with ketchup, basically. Gator is good. Alligator, I've only had the jerky, although I'm definitely getting an alligator po' boy when I'm down there in Louisiana as well. It's really good, though. It has a very slightly fishiness to it. But overall, I'd say it's like a better version of pork, actually. It's actually like pork, but better. Ostrich is good. Kangaroo is delicious, either biltong or otherwise. I can't remember the other. I think I had a kangaroo steak once. Shark, I've only had once, although I'm going to be probably getting that when I'm down in New Orleans as well with Twiggy. I don't know. It tasted weird a little bit. It had a little bit of a sourness to it that I didn't like, but it was a little bit tough too. So let's see, what else is there? What else would I like? Buffalo testicles are better than some steaks, by the way. But if you get a really good ribeye, like one that's really good and marbled, that's one of the finest things in the world. Sometimes I like vegetarian food, and I don't want to eat meat. Like, I want to eat a pile of Swiss chard tonight. And again, I'll have to go out and water that before I can harvest it. Otherwise, it's all fucked up. And I like a lot of fruits, and dairy products are great. Sometimes I want to go vegetarian, but sometimes you just want the T-bone. I was not a fan of frog. To Belle of the Bayou. I have tried frog on one occasion it was at a buffet, so probably not the greatest frog legs you can get. I wasn't really impressed. Dust thou art sticks. I ate guinea pig when deployed in South America. It looked like a rat. They held it by the tail and dipped it in the fryer. It really did just take like super oily chicken. You should try it. I'd try guinea pig. BW, maybe that's why they invented Thanksgiving, to sell turkey, especially since the first meal was actually boar and seafood. Yeah. Shrimp are good, by the way. Let's talk about seafood. I like cod. I like shrimp. I really, really like scallops. Scallops are the best, but they're expensive as fuck. Mussels, they're all right. I can't eat oysters, though. I've tried them on several different occasions, and they always make me sick. It doesn't matter what form they take. I can't eat oysters. Might have an allergy for all I know. See, crab. I'm not a huge fan of crab. I used to eat crab legs at the buffet sometimes, but, I prefer the, tuna's good. To Jake V, crawfish or crawdads. I love those. In Europe, they tend to call them prawns. Those are delicious if cooked properly. But I hate lobster. Doc Holiday 59 Sticks, when are you going to New Orleans? I'm not far from there. Let's go to Mardi Gras and celebrate boobies. Yeah, no, I'll be there in a couple of weeks, actually. Would be fun to come to Mardi Gras too, though. You know, and travel whenever I want. I work from home, so it doesn't really make a difference. As long as I bring the HDMI cable, because otherwise I'm up shit creek without a paddle. HGTH Productions. Why are you going to NOLA? The food is way better 2 hours west, and you won't get shot. I'm not going to get shot in New Orleans. I've got an experienced tour guide, so to speak. Also, I'll be open carrying, so good luck to anyone that wants to fuck with me. Red Viking, how come Tim Pool trusts the feds now? I think that he's being glib. I think that he is joking around right now. He's having fun because he's gaining a bunch of subscribers and shit because he's getting even more attention because of the stupid case. Langostino is like a large retarded prawn. Huh. I don't think I've had it. Anyways, I'm going to go offline. I've gone well over an hour. I do have to do a little bit of trimming out in the garden, a little bit of other preparation. As you can see, I've also got some V8 that I have to guzzle. I'm definitely grabbing one of those cans once they chill. Got another one in the mini fridge in the bedroom, so no worries. Sticks for the King of Bacchus. Yeah, the Bacchus one is literally what I was planning to go to. Exactly. That's the one. So yeah, thank you, Mulgera. By the way, again, he sent me Liberty Defined. It's signed by Ron Paul. I really do appreciate this. This is, yeah, you gotta see it. That's pretty fucking cool. So again, to Blood Old on Twitter, and link in the description, and you can take that. Last Beacon, Mulgera, lamb is the best meat. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's definitely, I like it. I like lamb meat, if it's cooked properly. I did have lamb chops one time that smelled a little too gamey. Yeah, I had to throw those ones out. I think they might have been a little bit past date or something. I didn't dare to eat them. That's about all. I'll be back on Monday. Peace out.